Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We know that this was a very quick, we realized that this was a very quick meeting that we're asking each person to show up for the BINFIN mobilization efforts. This is some very important information that we need to share with the BINFIN community, the SBCCI community, and we want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here tonight. We are hoping that the presentation will be anywhere between half an hour to 45 minutes. And on the call today, you have myself, Karen Saltau, Director of People Operations and SBCCI Portfolio at Tropicana Community Services. You have Senda Chinkanzi, who is our Project Officer for the SBCCI Portfolio here at Tropicana. And then you have Anthony Gray, who is our Board President at Tropicana Community Services. So during the presentation, if you have any questions, we are going to ask you to please put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. And once the presentation is finished, then we will be able to answer those questions for you. You will see in the chat that there are some documents that we have downloaded. We will go through those during the presentation, and at that point in time, if there are any questions, please let us know. So why don't we get started, Senda? Thank you. So the reason that we're here today is talking about securing the future of the SBCCI and Canada's Black investment communities. And what is our aim? Our aim is to create an advocacy and awareness campaign aimed at securing and enhancing the crucial federal investments in Canada's Black communities. That's our aim. And what is our goal? Our goal is to mobilize key stakeholders, influence decision makers, and galvanize public support. And part of our goal is also to ensure the continuation and the expansion of programs that have been proven, that's proved social and economic outcomes for Black Canadians. Next slide, please, Senda. And over the past few years, the federal government has made unprecedented investments totaling over $800 million through 3 flagship programs. And these are the 3 programs that we are going to be discussing today. The first one is the Black Entrepreneurship Program, also known as the BEP, the Supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative Program, also known as SBCCI, and the Black-led Philanthropic Endowment Fund. Next slide, please. And these initiatives have yielded remarkable results, and some of the results are listed here. With the Black Entrepreneurship Program, the BEP, they have provided loans for over 500 plus Black businesses, created 2,700 jobs, and have generated $200 million in revenues. With SBCCI, or the Supporting Black Canadian Communities, we have supported over 1,000 Black organizations, nonprofit organizations, created upwards of 1,200 jobs, and engaged about 11,000 volunteers. And for the Black-led Philanthropic Endowment Fund, we distributed $20 million to 250 Black nonprofit charities, fostering a long-term community development. And despite these undeniable success, these programs face extinctions or threats. First of all, the BEP's funding expired March 31st, 2024. The SBCCI is scheduled to conclude on March 31st, 2025. Next slide. And also, despite its intended permanence, the Black-led Philanthropic Endowment Funds, under a 10-year agreement, this particular agreement can be terminated by the government at will. And the potential loss of these programs will not only halt progress, but could reverse the gains made in addressing long-standing disparities. And I would just like to take a moment to also welcome Louis-Edgar Jean-Francois. He is from Group 37, located in Quebec. So he is also a part of our BINFIN community. And welcome, Louis-Edgar. And part of our campaign objectives is to secure commitment from the federal government to ensure that we expand and we extend the Black Entrepreneurship Program. We renew and enhance the Supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative, and we ensure the permanence of the Black-led Philanthropic Endowment Fund by transferring all rights and interests to the Foundation for Black Communities. And we have some additional campaign objectives. First of all, we want to raise widespread awareness about the impact and the crucial nature of these investments. We want to mobilize the Black community and allies to advocate for these programs. And we also want to influence key decision makers in government, opposition parties, and relevant departments. And we want to generate a positive media coverage to shape public opinion and policy priorities. And as we continue on, the campaign will be a multi-pronged approach. First one would be public engagement. So we are launching a compelling letter writing campaign to demonstrate broad support, which is what we're doing here today. So this is the first step of our multi-pronged approach. And then the second is going to be direct advocacy. So we are going to organize high impact and awareness days to engage directly with elected officials and policymakers. And the next thing we would like to do is to influence. So we want to execute a strategic media plan to amplify our message and shape the narrative. And after that, essential investment. These investments are beneficial and essential for addressing systemic inequalities. And at this point, I would just like to take a moment. We don't normally have even Louis Edgar with us or Anthony. Just wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that you would like to add in any of these the strategy that we were just talked about?
So Karen, I think you covered it for most part, and I'm grateful to see Louis Edgar on the call. And I apologize, I'm running around a bit today, but
No problem.
it is critical that we ask all of you on this call to extend this particular call out to your networks. Karen will get into that a little bit later. But we're at a pretty important inflection point in this program, these programs writ large, because there's a moment where we can galvanize support for making the Black community more stable, um, providing a hub for access to all the critical resources that other communities seem to have easier access to than ours does. And I described this over the weekend as basically sitting down at the Thanksgiving table and being the Black community, and we're sitting there with an empty plate while everybody else gets to feed. So our goal is to make sure that our plate is full, that we have access to the quote unquote the prosperity that Canada has to offer, and we get our fair share. So what we're asking you to do is help us make that case and be a loud voice on that journey. And anything that we can do to support you and you can support us, we're all in this together. And then I would ask Louis Edgar if he's got any thoughts aligned to that direction.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you, Karen, and thank you for the whole Tropicana team. It's a pleasure to be able to take maybe a few moments just to kind of amplify what my colleagues and brothers now and sisters are just mentioned. These are important times in terms of, the last 4, 5 years. Black initiatives, Black resources were put together to support the Black community across Canada. In terms of impact, in terms of transformational change for the Black community, it has been significant. And when there's a transformational change for the Black community in Canada, it means that there's a change as well for Canada as a whole. Now, these are important times to see in what capacity we can continue the important work, impactful work that we have started in the last 5 years. We touched on three important initiatives. It's close to $900 million that was put together to support the Black community. And today, we are at a point where some of these initiatives or part of these initiatives come to an end on March 31st, 2025. And the importance of making sure that we bring awareness to the community is a significant element in terms of the work of representation that we're doing not only at Groupe 3737, Tropicana, and all the four intermediary organizations, and all the other organizations actually that are somehow taking some sort of leadership to make sure we do the proper representation and make sure that we communicate the voice of the community, to make sure that the different decision makers are aware, that community knows, that community is aware, and that they are mobilized to see a positive decision in terms of bringing additional investments in those Black initiatives being taken. So there's a 3-week plan, a 3-week strategy that I think Karen and the team has clearly outlined, but really need your support. We really need your help in terms of seeing this through. The representation's in one piece, but the mobilization and the outreach is another. So that's why when we talk about different mobilization tools, we have a letter, we have a petition, we have a generic letter that we would like community to read and to sign, just for us to be able to show that unity and that awareness about the importance of these initiatives. So I think during the call, we have some links that probably are going to be shared in terms of different materials and tools. So there's a letter. The first letter actually is a letter to be sent to your respective MPs. The intentions is to really to make sure that your MPs are aware and that these letter goes from the MP to their different leaders. Again, the intention is when comes this decision time in terms of the fall economic statement, which is the mid-year annual budget, that in the discussion in what is going to appear in the fall economic statement is to make sure that the Black initiatives are prioritized and are discussed high level for inclusion in the fall economic statement and eventually into the budget 25-26. So it's important to bring that to your MPs and for the MPs to do the work to bring that to their leaders. After that, I mentioned the petition. I mentioned also a generic letter that would like the community to sign. Again, it's to have a maximum of signature to show to the different decision makers that we have the support of the community, and the community is well aware of the importance and the significance of adding those reinvestments to these Black initiatives. So we'll share actually links to the petition, to the generic letter. So it's going to be important to sign it and to share it with your own network. We do have a collective network, but each of us as individual and also as organizations, we have our individual network. So it's going to be important to share it as well. Again, the intention within the next 2 weeks is for that mobilization to become viral, for the voice of the community to be heard, and we will be able to together in a collective way to show that at the end of the day we have I'm sorry if I'm taking too long. We have actually a collective voice to bring this to fruition and make sure that we have additional resources to support the Black community. My apologies for taking that on. I'm passionate, so that's why I went that long, but I'll keep it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis Edgar and Anthony. We see the passion, and that's what we need. So no apologies needed, Anthony. So as Louis Edgar talked about, if we can go back to the slide before, is that we definitely need your support, and it's crucial. And one of the things that we need to make sure is that we continue the efforts, because if we do not continue the efforts and we do not have the support, your support and the community support at the end of all of this, the question will be, what have we really accomplished? Right. So this is so important. We've worked so hard over the last 4 years. We want to make sure that we continue from a financial perspective. So the question is, how can you help? And Louis Edgar has mentioned a couple of it. So Senda, if you can move on to the next slide, please. Louis Edgar talked about the MP's letter. We have a copy of the MP's letter that we have in the chat. And one of the important things is there's a couple areas that we are asking you to fill out. Put this particular letter on your letterhead, and then we're asking that you will sign it. So I'm going to ask if Senda can go on to the next slide. And what we've also included for you is, if you are not aware of who your MP is, there is a link that we have on this presentation. And again, I should have mentioned at the beginning, you will be getting a copy of this presentation after, and there will be a recording so that you will have both of them at your disposal. So the link for the letter is here, and just I want you to go to the next slide first, Senda, before we pull this up. For the MPs, for the MPP's location. Show the MP's link.
Just
So one of the
give me a
things we just
second.
want to do is to show you, we do have the link and we've put it in the chat, but as you pull it up, it will bring you to the MP's website. And what you need to do is just input your postal code in there, and then your MP will pop up. And when you do that, then you will see who your MP is. You get all the information from them, for them, and then you can just attach it onto the letter. So this particular website, and again, we will have that available for you in the chat, but also send it out after this presentation, just for your particular records. Okay, and Send, if I can ask you to pull up the letter for the MP, finding out who your MP is, and you will be putting their name and their address on this particular letter and addressing it to them. And one of the areas that that we want to draw your attention to, it's something that we've already covered. We talked about what the issue is. Go back to the first page, Senda, please. So we talked about what the issue is. What are the different programs? So we talked about the Black Entrepreneurship Program. We talked about SBCCI and the Philanthropic Fund. And then we go through talking about what the results are for these important initiatives, and what is going to happen, what the threats are. So we were very detailed in how we positioned the letter, so it's very easy for any of the MPs to read and for yourself to get a good understanding of what the issue is. And one of the areas I would like to draw your attention to is in this highlighted area here. You will see that we're asking you if you can put in just a sentence or two of how any one of the programs, whether if it's the BEP, if it's SBCCI, if it's a philanthropic fund, any one of those programs that you have benefited from, how it has benefited you. And more importantly, we want to make sure that you input the province and the city in which you are coming from, which you are sending it from. The reason that we want to do this is so that we will be able to collect the data. We need to be able to understand where are all these petitions, if you will, or these letters are coming from. Is it coming from Saskatoon? Is it coming from Ontario? Is it coming from Halifax? We want to make sure that you put in your city, and this is important as well for the MPs, so that they recognize and see that their constituents are really involved. And
I want to talk about
the other
this.
area, yeah, the other area that we want to make sure that you change on this letter, you're not going to be sending it to the Minister of Finance. It's whomever your MP is. Okay, and then down further, we're going to ask if you can sign the letter, put your organization's name in the letter, and put it on a letterhead. And then we're going to ask you if you can send it off to your MPs, and we will be sending you a form letter on Thursday, just as a check-in to see if you have completed and sent off the letter. And that particular form letter will ask you, did you send the letter off, the name of your organization, your name, and your location, again, which province you're from, and the city and the province that you're from. We are going to be collecting that information. So again, we have the data that we will be able to show as we galvanize and as we mobilize and move forward.
Can I just add for a second here, Karen? So as all of you are so important to this initiative, what you have to remember is part of what we've built over the last few years is the start of something important. The goal here is to create permanence of some kind of support for the Black community. We have a starting point, but it needs to grow as well. And your commitment, or your reaching out to your MPs, helps to create one single voice. That voice is the voice of the Black community. And as I mentioned earlier about sitting down at that dinner table at Thanksgiving, is letting them know that our plate is empty, right? And that we deserve to be fed just like anybody else at any other community across Canada. So this is critical. This is crucial. And the information that you'll be providing us helps us make sure that those folks that you've contacted, they know that we know that they've been contacted. Okay, so this is an important initiative in this moment, and you can be and create the history of, permanent support for the Black community in Canada. So that's the mission that you're on, that we're all on together. And I just wanted to make sure I underscore that for all of you on this call.
For sure. Fantastic. Thank you, Anthony. So I'd just like to take a minute to kind of recap what the expectation is and what the next steps would look like. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is making sure that we share this letter with you. You have it in the link, but we will be also sharing the letter with you, asking you to reach out to your MPs. Keep in mind, if you don't know who your MP is, we will have a link that you can put in your postal code, and that information will be available to you. Once you send that letter out, we will also be sending you the link for the petition. And part of that petition is we're trying to get as many signatures as we possibly can. Again, it's another form of us sharing the information and letting our government know that we need the future of the Black community. We need all these programs to continue for the future of the Black communities. And then we want to make sure that as you educate yourself and you become aware of what we are doing here, that you're going to be sharing this information. So there's also going to be a generic letter that Louis Edgar spoke about. All of it will be in the package, and that's going to be sent to you. And then the final, on Thursday, we are going to be sending you a survey, asking you to please fill out the survey. So that we are aware, that we know and we are aware of which MPs the letter was sent to and what location the letter came from. I'm going to stop here and want to find out, Louis Edgar, is there any questions that you have before we go to the questions in the chat?
No, actually, it's a well-structured methodology to make sure that we get all of those pieces out. So really, first, I really commend Tropicana to have put. It's kind of different than what we've done in Quebec, but it's still, I feel that it's going to be as efficient. For the audience to know, last Thursday we had a call with 300 organizations. We've been able to send. Now we're at 211 letters to different MPs, mostly in the Quebec region. What Tropicana is currently proposing is kind of attain the same type of resolve and make sure that we reach as much MPs as possible. So thank you for that. It's amazing. No, I think it's if I can support in any way, shape, or form, just let her know. But it's amazing what is currently being put together, and we ask for the community to be able to answer the call and send these letters. That will be amazing.
Right. And one of the things that I'd like to mention here is that this particular presentation that Tropicana is hosting, it's for all the intermediaries or the BINFIN community. So that would mean BBI, African Center, and Tropicana. We have we've collaborated to create this particular presentation so that we're sharing it with everyone. Louis Edgar in Quebec, they did it independently, but as you can see, Louis Edgar is here with us. So the important thing that I want everyone to take away from this is that the BINFIN community, as we are known, as we are a collective working across Canada. What we would love to see is anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 of these letters that are going to be going to the different MPs or more. So the more letters and more information that our MPs are aware of, because one of the things we found out, some of the MPs are not even aware of what SBCCI is or BEP or the Black Endowment Fund. They have no idea who we are. We may think everyone knows who we are, but a lot of people don't know. So this is also our way to educate our MPs of, who we are. The other thing to also keep in mind is Tropicana and the rest of the BINFIN community. We have proven our track record. We know how we can disperse funds. We've proven that we can disperse funds in a way that's equitable, that's transparent. But now we just need the time to continue so that we can make some major impacts. So this is what we're asking you as the community. And I know specifically for a lot of the individuals from Tropicana, always asking, what can we do as sub-agreement holders to support? So this is your opportunity to really support us. It's not going to cost you anything. It's going to cost you time, and it's going to cost you really reaching into your network to say, hey, this is going to impact not only our organization as nonprofit organization, but the community as a whole ecosystem as a whole. So I think I would like to stop there and see if we have any questions from the chat or from the Q&A that we can answer.
Nothing as of yet.
Okay.
Keep it open for any questions.
Mhm.
Maybe if you can, maybe in the meantime, maybe add a little something. So it's important for, like Karen mentioned, we are four intermediate organizations working together in terms of delivering the SBCCI program, but we are as well more than 1,500 organizations across the country being supported through SBCCI. So this collective effort we have to make sure that it's reaches everywhere in Canada. When we talk everywhere in Canada, whether it's in the Atlantic, whether it's in the West, whether it's in Ontario, in the prairies, in the North. So the outreach has to be national to make sure that, different decision makers know that it's not only in one province or two provinces, it's the whole Canada that is mobilized to see this through, and those investments being added to future resources for the Black community.
And if I could, one of the other things that we will be doing is we will be looking at potentially doing some more webinars next week, just so that we will continue the momentum. So if you know someone who may have wanted to be here, but they weren't able to, then we will definitely have a couple more webinars next week. But again, we also have the recording, so we will definitely be following up. And all those, the organizations, the BNFIN organizations will be reaching back to each of the sub-agreement holders just to make sure that they have been tuned in and to make sure that they have received the information. And we will be asking for feedback from you through, through the forms letter that we're going to be submitting.
We have a question from Miriam, and she's asking, has the organization taken, so I'm assuming she's saying, has BNFIN as a collective taken an initiative to know the stats of Black entrepreneurs that have benefited from these funds and not just not-for-profit organizations?
I think that's to Louis Edgar.
Yeah, I was going to say, Louis Edgar, that's probably great timing for you. So basically, this individual would like to know is have, the initiative been taken to know the stats for the Black entrepreneurs and who have benefited from these funds, not just for nonprofit. So I'm thinking probably the BEP, and if we have stats on those.
Yes, so actually in terms of stats, what we have, I'll go through actually the three different initiatives. So through SBCCI, in terms of impact, we've been able to create more than 3,000 jobs. There's also more than 20,000 volunteers that have been added to non-for-profit organizations in terms of capacity building. In terms of diversifying the sources of revenues, it's an average of new sources of revenues that has been able to be created through SBCCI. If we talk about the Black Entrepreneurship Program, the BEP, in terms of job creation is more than 3,800 jobs that was created through the BEP. In terms of revenue generated, it's more than $220 million generated through the BEP. Funding, more than $70 million disbursed through the FACE Coalition and direct funding for Black entrepreneurs. So in terms of stats, in terms of numbers, the numbers are there to show the actual efficiency of these Black initiatives. Not to say in terms of the Black Philanthropic Fund, the third initiative, in terms of money dispersed, it's more than $20 million that was disbursed in a short span of only a year and a half. And in terms of job creation, it came to amplify the work that we have done also at the SBCCI level. So again, we have to see these three initiatives as three synergistic initiatives that are able to communicate between one another to create and empower the Black community across Canada. So hopefully I'm answering the question.
Thank you, Louis Edgar. Just to follow up to that, Miriam, if you have any more clarity, you need more clarity, you can always let us know. But to follow up to that from Kayan, asking where can we find these stats you have provided? Thank you.
So it's internally at the BINFIN level. If we talk about SBCCI, that we've collected this data between us four intermediate organizations and the data that was provided by the non-for-profit supported through SBCCI. In terms of the BEP, so I have the privilege of being also a co-founder of the FACE Coalition who provides loans. So I'm on the board, and we've been able to collect the stats that relates to actually the loan portion. In terms of the ecosystem funding, the support to organizations that provide business support to Black entrepreneurs, we've been able, so there's 44 non-for-profit organizations that are currently being funded through the ecosystem part of the BEP, and we've been able to combine actually all of our data to be able to provide that. So these are internal data that were not made public yet. But the intention is really in terms of, outlining the amazing impact of these initiatives, we'll be able to make sure that these statistics become public.
Thank you. We do not have any new questions, but the chat and the Q&A is still open for any other questions coming in.
So I'm going to put a plug in for, Karen mentioned that the goal here is to mobilize all of you as intermediaries who have received SBCCI funding and across Canada. The goal as well is we have to create a viral moment here. As Louis Edgar mentioned, there are things that are happening with decision makers where we're not in the room, but our voice needs to be in the room. And so what we're doing here is creating that echo chamber that says that there is a community here that has done really well with an investment that you've made as a Canadian part of the Canadian kind of mosaic. And you need to pay attention to what we're doing because it's actually creating economic opportunity and prosperity across Canada for all Canadians, but starting with the Black community. So the more people in your networks that are aware of this and are supporting it and lending their voice to this particular outreach, the stronger our voice is, the louder our voice is. And we can use that to make sure that we are heard. And usually good things happen when people pay attention. So that's your goal. That's our collective responsibility, is to really create this echo chamber where our voices are heard at the most senior levels of decision making in the country.
Thank you so much, Anthony. We're still waiting on some questions. Please don't be shy. It's, we want to hear questions. Like Karen said, this is a way for us to mobilize the efforts, and we know you have always been eager to help. So this is your time to ask questions, to get involved.
We're just gonna give about 30 more seconds. We don't want to rush anyone, so we don't want anyone to feel as though that they are, that we're rushing. But if there's not any more questions, we also want to respect everyone's time, knowing that it might be dinner time for some people, or time to spend with their family. So we do appreciate that you took this time to be with us for such an important time as this. So I think what we will do is, if there are no other questions, we want to thank everyone. Again, we will be sending all the information out to the individuals that were part of this presentation, all the supporting documentation. You can always reach out to us at Tropicana through the SBCCI email. If you belong to BBI or you belong to Africa Center, please reach out to them through their SBCCI email, and then they will be able to support you in whatever way that you might need. If there's no other questions, we want to thank our panelists, and thank everyone for coming out today. Have yourself a wonderful night.